This is Bells and Whistle Sport in association with Register 81, IQ Boxing and Safer Training Solution. I'm here, Jermaine, alongside me, Dan from Tapping Football. To my left of me, Elijah, Tyrone and Toby from Tapping Football.
Yo.
Guys, welcome, thanks for having us.
I thought you were having us.
You know, everyone's jumping in anyway, so it's cool. But no, nothing but love. But let's move on. Obviously, this weekend, you had Man City versus Liverpool at Anfield. 3-1 to Liverpool. Quite brilliant performance from Liverpool as well, especially the goals. Obviously, didn't go well towards the end for Man City. Should have had probably 2 penalties. And
two? Where's the second one?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Where's the second one come from?
For me, 2 penalties. If I'm honest.
So it's on the pace.
No, if I'm honest, 2 penalties. The first half and then one from Sterling hits his hand. For me, he sticks his hand out both times. If I'm training, obviously you know what you're doing.
Come on.
First one I'll give you. Second one, there is no chance on earth that's a penalty. And even the first one.
Nah, don't try and defend the first one.
No, I'm not going to try and defend it. I said I think it's a penalty, but if we want to get super duper technical, it did hit Bernardo Silva's arm first.
Yeah, but that's clearly a ball to hand.
It is a ball to hand, but again, it's just the letter of the law, bro.
Yeah, it's
If
true.
it hits
That's
it-
true. No, it's true. That is actually true.
But that's only if a goal is scored they will bring that back for a free kick. So it's not just it wouldn't count in that situation as a handball.
So what, it would go into like another phase of play?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Because for me, I can see why people are saying the second one's a handball because I think
It's not, man.
because I can see why they're saying it, but I don't think it is just because of the position of his hands. But Trent, I thought he was very clever in that match. Like he's taken a chance. I think both times to just say, you know what, it's unlikely that the ref's going to give this, so I'm just going to risk it, and it paid off for him.
It's true. And if we rewind a few months back in the Champions League final, lo and behold, Sissoko, similar sort of incident to the first one with Trent. No penalty given there, and a penalty given in the Champions League final. This is what I hate about VAR as well. Like it's just like they're genuinely just making up these rules as they go on.
I don't even think they understand how to operate. To be honest, like they have a screen on the pitch, the referee can use, and they're not really using it. And like, what is the procedure? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't even think they know.
To be honest, it's like I almost think that it's the English refs. They're almost too arrogant with it. Do you know what I mean? Like you've seen it be implemented in German league and Italian league for a season. You saw it implemented in the World Cup as well. And they've come and they've decided that they want to switch it up. They've changed the handball rule that no one has ever seen before, and we've seen the downside of that this season. They've changed the way that they're implemented with the guys in the van actually making the final call over the man on the pitch that understands the flow of the game and all of this stuff. So I don't really know why they thought that they could be so clever with it when, if we're going to be honest, European refs, they're better than English refs as well.
Yeah, I agree. It was obviously, I think last week you had the meeting between the managers for the Premier League and the officials of the FA. Obviously, they came out and said the referees can use the machines to their own discretion. So it's not compulsory that they use the machines to give a final call. What do you guys make of that? Obviously, for me, I think they should be using the screens regardless.
My opinion on that is just an opinion of like just born out of pure confusion, because I don't get why these guys don't want to help themselves. Like the technology was brought in to help no one but them. It was brought in to help them. So it's like them refusing to use the technology that's been brought in to make their lives easier. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like I'm genuinely bewildered as to why they're going out of their way to try and make the implementation of VAR as difficult as possible. It doesn't make sense to me.
And also, don't you think from the technology that they have, don't you think it's flawed? Because they're using technology to find out if it's a handball, if it's offside, but they're having someone as a human give their opinion on if it's correct or not. Surely you could program to say this person is offside, this person, the ball hit the hand at this instance, or therefore is off. Do you know what I mean?
I think
so. Having that human element into it actually adds the error, adds the cause of all this confusion.
I think you're always going to have the human error.
No, but look how long, if you could computerize this, because you can easily for.
Can you do it?
Yeah, of course you can. Look what they did for. Look what they did for the ball of going inside in the goal where they had the ball.
goal line technology.
Yeah, exactly. That's quick, straight away, and it goes to the guy's watch, the referee's watch. So for me, if they can do that, why can't they do that for handball and program to notify when the ball hits the hand?
I think it's difficult.
Yeah,
I think it's difficult.
I think with handballs and stuff like fouls, penalties and stuff like that, I don't think you can ever get an actual machine to do that.
It's always going to be subjective.
What was interesting? I was reading something. I can't remember where I was reading it this week. Maybe it was even my mate that was telling me that. So the NFL, what they've done. So obviously, the game is based on the yardage that you get in it, right? So they actually have technology that a camera is lined up at the start, and a camera runs alongside the pitch, and so each yard is measured almost to, I don't know what an inch or whatever it is in the NFL, so you know exactly where the ball's gone down and stuff like that for marking where the first, second, third downs and everything should be in it. So I think if you can bring technology in like that to help with the offsides, that might help. But for me, what I've said about the offside rules specifically is that as long as it's consistent and consistently applied, then it's fine, right? Because it's like, you know, it's going to be a black or white call. So like things like the Sheffield United goal against Spurs that was disallowed because his toe was offside. It was like, fine, fair enough. People are like, oh, is this really what we're bringing technology in? It does. At the end of the day, whether his toe's on or off, it shouldn't determine whether it's a goal or not. But if every single player's toe is going to be adjudged to be offside in that same instance, then I don't mind it.
Well, I've seen that picture over and over again. I don't see any toe. I see it live, and I see the knee.
You can clearly see his toe there. Like, it's a harsh one to roll out, but we've seen them roll out Sons. We've seen them roll out Firmino's. We've seen them roll out Sterling's one, literally first game of the season.
Yeah.
So it may not be the best, but it's consistent. It's the one consistent thing you can at least see from VAR. And it's annoying now because VAR is actually a positive thing. Like when it works well, it works exceptionally well. You saw it against in the Borussia Dortmund match, in the drubbing against Bayern Munich at the Alliance, the second goal. I remember they tried to rule it out for offside or something like that. They checked VAR, it was onside, and they gave a goal. Yeah. And we've seen positive instances of it used in the Premier League, but it just keeps getting overshadowed by all these nonsense decisions. You almost expect a howler from VAR every weekend. It's a joke.
Yeah.
What about the time it's taken? Obviously, it does take a long time. Obviously, we go back to the Sheffield United game when they played Tottenham.
That was a joke. I was actually at that game. That was a joke. The past two games I've been to are the past two games he played in the league. Everton away and Sheffield United at home. And I kid you not, it's been the longest wait ever that I've faced with VAR. Because I remember the first time I actually witnessed VAR in action was last season, the League Cup match against Chelsea when Harry Kane scored that penalty in the semi-final. I remember it took probably like a minute or so to decide that, but the Everton one was, obviously you had the issue with Gomez, but a man goes to hand out a yellow card, then a few minutes later you then go and brandish a red card after seeing Gomez in a heap of pain. And then on Sheffield United as well, how long does it take to actually judge whether this thing's offside or not? And even the Ali handball at Everton, it took a million years to decide.
My thing was just that, like, it's a quick solution, right? Like, if it takes you more than, say, a minute and a half to come up to the decision, just stick with what the on-field ref said, because clearly then it's so close that it shouldn't make a difference. Honestly, really. Do you know what I'm saying? So
that's like, when you have to give it the benefit of the referee. If it's wrong, it's wrong.
That the referee got it right, like, you know, we'll hold our hands up. If eventually it takes 5-10 minutes of study to figure out that, you know, the on-field decision was wrong, that's just one of them ones you have to eat and you move on with it. Because I think, you know, they do have to start taking in the match day going fan as part of the process here, especially if they're not gonna show the videos on screen. Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're gonna stick on the Man City Liverpool game. Obviously, there's a little controversial incident towards the end of that game which involved Raheem Sterling and Joe Gomez.
Right, I told you we're not calling him Raheem Sterling.
Okay,
we're calling him the Claw.
The Claw. Okay. That's how he says the Claw. Seems a bit of beef towards the end between the two. Obviously, it squared up, had to be separated, and then led towards the England duty. They both, I think Joe Gomez was in the canteen with a few of his teammates, laughing and
joking.
joking, and Sterling walks in and says, "Oh, you think you're a big man here?" And Claw, as Toby likes to call him, came out to play. Grabbed him around the neck. Guys, what do you think of that? Obviously, Southgate's sent Raheem home. He's not going to be appearing for England in the next 2 games in the qualifiers. What do you think of that?
Well, let me start off with this. This will be my only point because I don't really want to spend too much time on the Claw. If England were playing a meaningful team or they were in any sort of jeopardy of not making the World Cup, guaranteed Raheem Sterling would not be excluded from this team. Impossible. So that's the only point I want to make on this. You lot can have the floor for the rest of it. The issues.
Do you guys think this should have came out in the public? Because it's been blown out of proportion. It's to be honest, it's just handcuffs and handbags. Do you really think it should be blown out in the public like this?
No.
Yeah, not at all, to be honest. Like, you've seen what Rio Ferdinand said, like, in the squads that he's been involved in, you know, there's been fists, there's been kicks, you know, there's been elbows, all of this stuff. It happens. Like, even when we're playing, like, Sunday League, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, things get heated. And I think especially when the stakes are so high between Man City and Liverpool, you know, we've all been there, yeah? Like, when one of your mates, one of your guys gets one over on you, and you go to bed burning, innit? So then, you know, you come back, you imagine rocking up, you see Joe Gomez, you know, laughing and joking after Sterling must have been getting flamed in his WhatsApp group chat, yeah? Like, they're saying, oh, how you gonna let man pick you up like that? You know what I mean? How you gonna let him do that to you?
Gomez actually violent.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like,
violated.
If a man comes and picks me up, yeah, and then, you know, on national TV, and then I see him laughing and joking, like, and this is like this is my area. I'm the big man. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the one they're calling the MVP in this team. You can't let that run, man. So, you know, it happens, and I think they should have just probably, you know, whether or not to drop him, you know, make that decision. But I don't think they needed to make it into a big thing, because if they did drop him, they said, you know what, we were trying to rest him, do you know what I mean, trying to rotate, test out other players, no one would have said anything, but now they've made it into a big thing, and I'm not sure that was the right decision.
Yeah, I probably think they could have said he had an injury or something.
Yeah.
I think they trying to make it a bit silly like that.
Scapegoat.
Yeah, I think it's a bit, I'm not too sure about that. But Elijah, obviously, a good result for you guys. What do you think now? It's looking good, 9 points clear. Do you think coming up to the festive period next month is going to be a crucial part of the season for Liverpool?
Yeah, I think it's the Christmas period that will test us, really, to be honest. It was a good game, but honestly, if that penalty gets given, it swings differently. But you can kind of tell, like, it was weird to see Man City, kind of the way they played their defence, but Aguero just couldn't hit the back of the net. There was one where I think Kevin De Bruyne just puts it on a plate for him, and he just couldn't finish it. So I know his record there is not good. It's 0. Yeah, exactly.
0 goals in 14
And I think what Liverpool do well, which Klopp gets them to do, is that when they're on top, just hit them in spells. So there was obviously that period. As soon as Salah gets a second, I'm thinking okay. But then obviously in the after half time when Mane gets the head and it's free, I'm like, okay, it's pretty much done now still. So yeah, no, we played well. But to be honest, I would never say that we won the league yet, man. I've seen us. The points will be massive. Man City, honestly, they're relentless. So it just depends. I have to take it game by game.
I think the whole Christmas period thing might be, as I said, I think the only thing, like you said, stopping Liverpool is just the injury. I don't think, normally when you enter the Christmas period, you associate it with, we got some difficult games to play. I think if you look at Liverpool's run on paper over that festive break, you'd have to back them to get more points than Man City, even with the fact that they're playing the World Club Cup, and they still got the League Cup and so on and so forth. They got the easier fixtures. They got the easier run of games. And like I said at the start, it's just the injury thing. We've seen Salah pull out of the Egypt national team with suspected recurrence of the ankle injury. You got Robertson, ankle injury as well. You got Matip, who's been out for a number of weeks. So the only thing that's going to actually derail Liverpool in terms of their actual consistency is, like we said, the sort of the niggling injuries. It's now up to Man City to try and show people why they're touted as the best team in England and put up a feat similar to what they did last season. And it's going to be all the more difficult now that they've actually got big casualties as well at the back.
Yeah, we're going to talk a bit about their fixtures. They've got some tough games coming up, Man City.
Yeah.
Chelsea, they're going to have to play Arsenal as well.
That's not.
Well,
It's actually not a tough
yeah,
fixture.
it's not tough the way we're Arsenal playing at the moment. But like you said, Toby, on paper, it's tough fixtures compared to what Liverpool have.
I think on paper it's even easier.
No, so like I was looking at today. So Liverpool, they've actually played everyone that's in the table at the moment from 2nd to 7th, and City haven't played any of them. So Liverpool, they've won all those games. I think bar United, who are 7th, and even then they didn't really perform that game. But you know, if you're looking at it now, the teams that are actually in form and playing well, Arsenal aside, they could cause City problems, especially with their injuries at centre back.
Yeah.
So wait, the first team they play is what? Chelsea at the Etihad.
Yeah.
The thing is, Chelsea have the
Momentum.
We've seen at City at the Etihad. If there's one thing teams have had, the teams who have actually caused them damage, it's usually when they've been hit on the counter. You saw it against Aston Villa. Aston Villa lost 3-0, but the first half Aston Villa had counter-attacking opportunities galore. You saw it with Wolves. Both their goals came from counter-attacks. They could have scored probably 3-4 goals from counter-attacks as well. And I think Chelsea, with the pace they have, with the combination play they have in midfield as well, they actually have players who can not only beat Man City's press, but players who can carry the ball from and transition from defence into attack. You got Willian, you got Kante, and you got flipping Pulisic as well, who's playing well. So
And Kovacic.
And Kovacic too. So you have a team that are tailor-made to hit you in transition, in my opinion, in terms of the profile of players. So I think Man City will need to be wary of that against Chelsea, because Chelsea are definitely going to come and try and play some football. But if I had to put money on it, I would expect them to beat Chelsea at home, and I would expect them to win probably 70-80% of those games that they have to play, really.
I'm not going to lie, I'm really looking forward to that match, just because I think both teams are really, really good going forward this season, but also give you enough chances as well to score. So I'm expecting quite an open and exciting match.
Yeah, it'll be a good game of football, for sure. For sure.
Okay, we're going to move on. Obviously, we talk a bit about that Riyad Mahrez coming out recently and saying that he almost joined Arsenal back in 2016.
How many times are we going to have to hear this?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, Toby don't want to hear it.
he almost joined
Yeah,
Arsenal.
that.
He almost joined
Obviously-
Arsenal.
For him to come out and say that it's obviously 2 years of his career feels like he was wasted. And you're talking about a guy who's won the Premier League and League Cups and honours for his national side. What do you guys think of that? Obviously, you think you'd be pretty grateful that he's playing for Man City and he wouldn't be thinking about that.
I think he made 100% made the right decision not joining Arsenal. It's a mess. Yeah, he could be the kingpin at Arsenal, and he could be earning probably the same amount he's earning at City, but he wouldn't have a Premier League title. He wouldn't have what did they win the League Cup last year as well?
Yeah,
he wouldn't have the Premier League or League Cup last year, and he wouldn't have Champions League football. So correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he leave Leicester to get to be in Europe's elite competition? If he goes to Arsenal, he's in Europa League. Literally 2 seasons on the trot. So he's vindicated by going to Man City.
Yeah, I think it's more about sometimes you get to a point where you just want to play. He's used to playing at Leicester City, and so he just wants to go into a team and he plays regularly. And if you get out of that framework where you're on the bench or you're competing, you don't really feel comfortable. Like almost the goal or the the medals, the trophies. It's like, okay, I've got it, but I didn't actually earn it. Do you know what I mean?
Man, I ain't trying to hear any of that, man. He plays. Mahrez, he may not be a first teamer, but he gets enough games for him to know, yo, I contributed to this silverware. He plays. For me, if I was a football, I would hand on heart be one of the worst footballers ever, because I'm taking my check and I'm keeping my mouth shut. If that gravy train is that gravy train's going, I'm sticking on that gravy train. I'm keeping my mouth shut. If you want to bench me, send me home for all I care. Dock me wages, just don't sack me and don't sell me. I'm there on the bench. Simple.
To be honest, when I was reading his comments, I thought it was more a dig at Leicester than anything that's happening at Man City, because he was more saying that like, I could have been doing this 2 years ago kind of thing. And I don't think he was saying, I wish I'd have joined Arsenal, because I'm pretty sure everyone is glad that they didn't join Arsenal. You know, all of the million people that have been linked to us as well. I don't think there's a player that actually regrets not coming to Arsenal in all of the.
You can ask Messi. You can ask Messi.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So I don't think that's what he was saying at all. I think it was more just the fact that Leicester they sort of held me hostage for 2 years, and he's upset about that because he's right though. He could have been playing top level football. Whether or not that would have been in Champions League, you could make the argument that we might have finished in Champions League spot if we had Mahrez, Ozil, and Sanchez on top form. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think. And I don't think. And you're saying Mahrez. This was 2016, 2017, right?
Yeah.
That was your worst season, and Alexis Sanchez was one of your best players. Like you completely capitulated that season, the second half of the year.
Yeah, if you add a player of that quality, I think you can say that you can perform better. But
you can perform better, but to what extent though?
To be honest, if I'm honest, it would have made a big difference because Arsenal defensively all over the shop.
Shambles.
You could have scored another he could have probably got another 15 goals, but it still would have made a difference because he would have been leaking the same going the other way.
That's what I'm saying. So, Alexis Sanchez played out of his skin and finished fifth.
Yeah.
Several points below fourth spot, no?
No, I think it's just one.
Or was it one?
There's 1 point with Liverpool.
Oh yeah. But still, poor. Not good enough.
So let's talk about the weekend's football. You had Chelsea playing against Crystal Palace. 2-0 win for Chelsea. I was at the game.
You support Chelsea?
No, that's I'm a good But no, Chelsea. I want to give a special praise out to Reece James, as I thought he dealt with Wolverhampton very well in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea took their goals well as well. Tammy Abraham with a finish. And what do you guys think of Crystal Palace? Do you think, for me, they're probably going to go down with Southampton this season?
They'll be fine.
They're comfortably safe.
Yeah?
They're too stubborn a side for me to go down. I think defensively, they're one of the most difficult. I think on their day, they're one of the most difficult teams to break down, and I think you could see that in the first half against Chelsea. Chelsea were trying. Pulisic was the catalyst. He was the epitome of everything that they did well in that game, but they struggled to break down Crystal Palace, and really and truly, they only created one sort of meaningful chance in the first half, and I think that's just a testament to how well Hodgson has this team drilled when they're off the ball. Obviously, they don't really have shooters. We had a poll at the start of the season to measure how many goals Ayew, Wickham, and Benteke were going to score combined, and the final vote we got was 5 to 8 goals combined. So, so Ayew's already on what, like four goals? Yeah. So I think Ayew might just carry the mantle for it. Benteke's on 0 goals, Wickham's on 0 goals, and then you add into the fact that Zaha's not really playing well as well. So the attack is still going to be a worry, but I feel like the midfield and defence it's a bit.
The thing is,
there's a lot of know-how in that team.
Penalties are such a weapon for that team, though, right? Because you've got Townsend and Zaha on the flanks that are a bit tricky. They win a lot of penalties, and then obviously you've got Milivojevic, who's got probably one of the best penalty records in the league. So I think if they can scrape a few 1-0s to get enough points. And the thing is, what as Toby's saying, if they don't win, they often try not to lose as well. So I think you get those 1 point on the ball, 1 point on the ball, 1 point on the ball. They eventually add up. I do think they will be in and about relegation, but I think there will be 3 worse teams than them.
You're gonna pick the teams you think are gonna be the 3 worst teams?
Norwich, Newcastle. I think Southampton is my favourite.
Newcastle.
Yeah, Newcastle. Southampton.
Okay. When we go to Newcastle, let's talk about Newcastle. Obviously, they won 2-1 on the weekend against Bournemouth at home. I thought Bournemouth might have won that game, but obviously Newcastle at home are quite strong. They get the fans behind them, and you never know what sort of Newcastle will turn up when they play at home.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I think their fans are a big key for them. I think even no matter what their views are on Mike Ashley, I think the fans will always give 110% for the team, and I just think the team are now finally starting to give back to the fans. I think their attack are a bit more cohesive than they were in recent weeks, and I think a catalyst for that is Alan St. Maximin. I said it on our podcast yesterday. I don't rate him highly as a football player. I don't put him top of the pops, but I rate him. Like it's visibly clear to see that this guy can actually play football. Like when he gets the ball at his feet, you're not taking it off him, and he is literally someone who's going to take the ball from their goal, their box, up to the opposition half, unchallenged. The only problem is just finding that extra piece to score or assist. But if they keep him fit, I think the likes of him will make the likes of Almiron play a bit better. And I think if Joelinton can just sort of strike up some sort of chord with him, I think Newcastle will have a decent chance of staying up, because I gave him no chance of staying up at the start of the season. But I must admit, Steve Bruce is doing better than I expected. And I think with Maximin fit, then they could have just enough to stay up.
Let's talk a bit about Steve Bruce. Because obviously, he's a Geordie. But obviously, he's managed Sunderland and the fans absolutely despise the man.
He's a slut.
Yeah, so for him to come to Newcastle, obviously he's going to take time for the fans to be on his side. But he's getting some good results for them, guys. You got to think Newcastle, like you said, along with Palace, well-drilled team. They defend. They always stay in and around the game. Chances to either win the game or get a point at least. So would you guys give Steve Bruce a lot of credit for the way Newcastle playing them or not?
I don't want to give him too much credit, because we need to remember how poor they were in some of their matches early on in the season. They went away to Norwich, they were terrible. At home against Arsenal, they were just huffing and puffing, they had nothing. Of course, they somehow managed to beat us at the flipping London Stadium. So I don't want to give him too much credit, because ultimately I don't rate him that highly as a manager, but he is doing a decent enough job now, and he's getting some of those players playing. And if there's one thing that he's always been able to be good at, is getting the best out of his attack. You saw it at what team was it where they actually did a madness? It was Sunderland. You saw it with Sunderland. I think he has a way of working with attackers. I think he even saw it at Wigan as well. So as I said, if they can keep that attack fit, he might be able to do the unthinkable and get goals out of Almiron and Maximin. And if he can get goals out of Almiron and Maximin, they're definitely going to stay up.
I think they too. I think they've got too much momentum at the moment for them to drop too many points. Like when they're even going against the big teams, it's like they're almost like one of those West Ham bogey teams where they just want to play well and keep up the momentum, score 2 goals, and then defend for their life. Yeah,
but so, what you need to remember is, even under Rafa, Newcastle are the type of team that can lose 7 games straight. So a loss is always around the corner for Newcastle.
But they're making up for winning games that they shouldn't be winning, like the United game and things like this. Like,
oh no, they deserve to win. If there's one thing I can give them, the games that they've won this season, they deserve to win every single one.
I agree.
But that's my point. They're playing against big teams where they shouldn't be really, where they should be losing. They're actually winning or drawing, so they're gonna be making up for it when they actually do lose. If that makes sense.
So I'm just not deceived by anything I'm seeing about Newcastle, man. Like, I think, as Toby said, a loss is always around the corner, and I think a bad run is always around the corner. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they just went on like 6 games without a win or something at any point during the season. And then I think those are the key crucial times that when they do go into a slump, to try and keep it as short as possible.
Yeah, it's open. Like we said yesterday, it's open season. Before, at the start of the season, you could say before a ball was kicked, oh, Norwich are going down, Newcastle are going down. As I said, I even tipped Sheffield United to go down. Now, Norwich are the only team, hand on heart, that you can say, yep, you're definitely going down. Everything else, there's other variables to consider.
Well, Norwich at the very beginning, they were on fire. Like, Bucci was his name.
Yeah, he was bagging, but
I didn't put this guy in my football fantasy. I took Rashford for that guy. I'm telling you, now I'm depressed, mate. I don't know how to switch him. It's crazy.
I think he's still in I think I've either got him or Ala in my team as well. Both of them are struggling.
Yeah, so it's technical right now. It's technical.
It is.
So we're going to also talk about Burnley v West Ham game. West Ham at the moment, guys,
they're one of them teams. Like a rock. Yeah.
I mean, and it doesn't help that Fabianski's been out injured, and this goalkeeper Roberto coming in now. He's been like,